Bom dia, boa tarde, estamos ao vivo no YouTube, começando aqui a transmissão, 11 horas e 54 minutos, vamos começar a nossa transmissão em 6 minutos, meio-dia em ponto, para você que almoçou, para você que não almoçou, chame toda a sua turma para nós almoçarmos, vamos aguardar aqui 5 minutinhos para começar a nossa transmissão. Diretamente ao vivo do YouTube. Você que está aí assistindo, diga para nós como é que está, está ouvindo bem, o áudio está saindo legal. Diga aí para nós, dê o seu alôzinho para sinalizar para nós que você está aí acompanhando a nossa transmissão. Aguardando toda a nossa turma se conectar. Opa, galera chegando aí. Ô, Alisson. Fala aí, Fernando. Beleza? O áudio tá ok? Que bom. It's ok. Que bom. Como é que tá o inglês seus aí? Como é que tá aí? Consegue arranhar nos inglês aqui? Vai ser uma transmissão multilingual, multilínguas. Ah, Uday. Yes, Uday. The transmission will be in English. Part of the transmission will be in English. Part of the transmission will be in Portuguese, Uday. Uh, you can hear the answers in English, but some part of the transmission will be also in Portuguese, okay? So, stay with us. Ô, Wanderson, bom dia também. Galera está chegando aí. Ó, o Fábio aí. O Fábio é o brazuca falador de inglês. Já tá mandando aí um alôzão. Que bom. Sejam todos muito bem-vindos, pessoal. Estamos ao vivo no YouTube, no LinkedIn e no YouTube, LinkedIn e Facebook. Agora eu vou estar também ao vivo no Instagram para chamar a galera para o YouTube. Vamos entrar ao vivo no Instagram aqui também. Opa! Ao vivo no Instagram também. Pessoal do Instagram, venham para o YouTube. Ok, vamos começar. Oi, Aline! Seja bem-vinda! Bom dia, boa tarde! Olha o Wanderson aí, ao vivo, de Portugal. Pertinho aí da turma, né? Pega um avião e vai lá visitar os nossos convidados. Fernando, boa tarde. O Fernando já almoçou, porque o Fernando está dando boa tarde. Né? Aqui é. Eu não almocei ainda, então para mim é bom dia. O Marlon também chegando. Alô, Marlon, Capuchinho, boa tarde. Marlon também já almoçou. Marlon tá aí já almoçado, porque tá dando boa tarde. Valdeci também. Ô, Valdeci, beleza? Good afternoon. O Fernando também, lá de Portugal. É isso aí, Fernando. Sejam todos bem-vindos. Alemanha para o Brasil, do Brasil para o mundo. Maria Tereza, ô Maria, também, opa, beleza, seja bem-vinda. Hoje é cedinha a aula, hein, Maria? Para você tá cedinha a aula hoje, hein? Não vai mais precisar ficar aí até de madrugada nas nossas aulas. Vamos começar 11 horas, 59 minutos, nós vamos dar 2 minutos. Nós vamos começar aqui às 11, 11 não, meio-dia e 1, para esperar a galerinha chegar aqui. Todo mundo conectando, ao vivo no YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook e Instagram. Olha aí que loucura. Transmissão ao vivo simultânea em 4 plataformas. Ô, Sidraque, beleza, brother? Olha aí, Alessandra do Canadá, o Rodrigo. Diga aí, pessoal, todo mundo de que cidade ou país vocês estão falando? People that are not from Brazil, say which country you are speaking. Olha aí, Montreal do Canadá, Portugal. Boa tarde, Danilo. Boa tarde, Sidraque. O Márcio, bom dia. Quase tarde já. Isso vai ver se você almoçou ou não almoçou. Jundiaí, Belo Horizonte. Ô, minha terra, Belo Horizonte. Eu vou aí, Darcy, no Natal, visitar minha mãezinha aí no Natal. Daqui a pouco minha mãe entra na live também. Minha mãe é minha maior fã. Então, pessoal, agora é meio-dia. Ó, o Fernando. O Fernando sempre tá no Instagram. Ô, Fernando, vem pro YouTube aqui, Fernando. Vem pro YouTube. Vai estar no YouTube também, né? Então, vamos começar. É meio-dia e 1 minuto agora. Eu falei que ia começar meio-dia e em 1 minuto. We will start now. I will start speaking in Portuguese first. Bom dia, pessoal. Boa tarde para quem já almoçou. Sejam todos muito bem-vindos a essa transmissão muito especial. O meu nome é Cristiano Santos, eu sou instrutor de Fiori para desenvolvedores ABAP. Hoje nós vamos falar sobre as tendências atuais e futuras do SAPUI5. Os nossos convidados estão ao vivo, direto da Alemanha, para conversar com a gente. São 2 pessoas que fazem parte do time de desenvolvimento do UI5 Framework. Para quem não sabe, o UI5 Framework é a ferramenta utilizada para criar aplicativos Fiori. Todo desenvolvedor ABAP precisa atualizar sua carreira para o Fiori, independente do seu nível. Sênior, pleno, júnior, iniciante, até aprendiz de ABAP. Então, hoje nós vamos aprender direto da fonte. Essa transmissão é uma aula da comunidade Fiorinet de desenvolvedores. Inicialmente ia ser fechada somente para os membros da comunidade, mas devido à importância desse assunto e ao gabarito dos nossos convidados, eu decidi fazer essa aula aberta para todos, da Alemanha para o Brasil e do Brasil para o mundo. Quem ainda não disse, diga aí de que cidade vocês estão falando. And if you are not from Brazil, say where are you from? And let's start. I will say here first some notes. Antes de começar, eu vou dar alguns recados. Primeiro recado, quinta-feira da semana que vem, às 19 horas, nós vamos ter uma live gratuita de BOPF para CDS Views. A cada 15 dias eu dou uma aula gratuita no YouTube e a próxima aula vai ser quinta que vem, 19 horas. Segundo recado, dia 30 de outubro eu vou estar presencialmente em Fortaleza, palestrando no SAP Inside Track, falando de UX Design aplicado à realidade do consultor SAP. E eu vou desmistificar esse assunto de UX Design. O terceiro recado agora, relacionado a nosso evento, aos nossos convidados, sobre as perguntas para os nossos participantes. O foco deles é desenvolvimento front-end. Então, o que você não deve perguntar? Você não deve perguntar nada relacionado a back-end. O que é? ABAP, Gateway, CDS Views, Annotations, Fiori Elements, Rap e Cap. Essa não é a frente deles. Então, não perguntem sobre isso e também não perguntem sobre o 7-1. Sobre o que vocês podem sim perguntar. Tudo relacionado a front-end. SAPUI5, UI5 Tooling, UI5 Inspector, sobre OpenWi5, TypeScript, Web Components e os eventos que eles fazem, que são Wi-Fi Com e Wi-Fi Live. Como que vai ser a dinâmica? Eu vou dizer para vocês a pergunta em português e vou perguntar para eles em inglês. E eu vou traduzir aqui alguma coisa ou outra, mas não tudo. Vamos sentir como é que vai ser a dinâmica hoje, né? Uma live começa, não tem precedentes. Nunca antes no Brasil alguém entrevistou uma pessoa do OpenSAP ao vivo. Então vamos ver o que vai dar. Eu vou começar perguntando para eles um pouco da história deles com a empresa SAP e com o Wi-Fi Framework, ok? So let's start. Now I will speak in English with our guests. Hi Peter, hi Margot. Thank you very much for your presence here. I am very happy to have you here today.
Yeah, thanks for having us. Bon dia.
Yeah.
I hope I pronounced it right.
Bon dia, exactly. Yeah, thanks for the invitation. It's really cool to see, to be part of this Brazilian community about UI5. So I'm really curious about this call today.
Okay, great. My first question is, can you quickly tell your story with the SAP company and the Wi-Fi framework?
Who want to start? Ladies first, or should I?
I can start maybe because you have the bigger story to tell, I guess. So as mentioned, my name is Margot Wolny. I'm working for SAP now already, let's think, 20, almost 20 years. So it's quite a while. And I started as SAP consultant in the CRM area. So I had been SAP consultant for 12 years and did there also UI5 development. And I don't know if people from you know CRM, there's this CRM UI framework. And I was there from the very beginning, started with the UI framework there and realized then, okay, if I want to do really good things, I have to go to the ABAP and make also the ABAP things. So, and then became also ABAP development and did mainly ABAP OO development there as well. And then after a while, quite a lot of the people, I was working quite a lot with the development team there for CRM. And the main part of this was then reorganized in SAP and was assigned to that called Phoenix project. And they asked me then if I also want to join. And as I was really eager to get the next level of UI or the next part of UI developed by SAP, I decided also to join the UI product management team. And from there, I switched then 2 years ago, I think, even to the UI5 development team, but not as a developer, but for internal projects. So I'm now project manager for UI5 projects.
Okay, very good.
Yeah, my story started at the other side of the force, let's say. I started around 2005 in enterprise portal Java development. So I have not really history in the ABAP development. So I'm always, when I see people having ABAP knowledge, it's very impressive for me to see that. And when you see also what the people can do there, that's really cool. So it's really let's say a black hole I have a bit in my history, and I should at some point of time also refresh a little bit. But from this enterprise portal, I was also working then from time to time in the UI renovation topics of this enterprise portal. And at some point of time in 2008, my manager reached out to me to ask me to join this UI concept car project to define the new UI for SAP. This made me curious, and I immediately said, yes, this is what I want to do. And so in the mid of 2008, this concept car project started. First, we did a bit in server-side rendering, but with the acquisition of business objects at that point of time, we also looked then in client-side rendering frameworks. And this was the starting point of the Phoenix project. So that's what now became SAP UI5 or Open UI5, the open source part of that. And I started there more or less as a developer, which did a little bit of build tooling. And then I moved into, was so keen to say, I want to develop the table control. With that, I had the entry barrier to the framework. I did a little bit of web IDE development in the beginning. And step by step, I have been somehow moved into this role of the central chief architect for the UI5 topic. So I more or less had a chance to really work with a lot of people in several spaces in all areas of the UI framework. And that's my history in SAP and in UI5.
Okay, very good. Happy to hear your history. Então, pessoal, vocês entenderam aí? Quem entendeu, diga aí, né? Margot, ela era do SAP, trabalhava com a BAP, com CRM, com a interface do usuário de CRM, foi convidada para desenvolver a nova interface do usuário, que acabou virando o UI5 e o Fiori. O Peter, ele já era um desenvolvedor front-end, não conhece a BAP, e foi convidado também para participar de uma nova interface do usuário, da SAP, e eles se juntaram e teve o projeto Fênix, do UI5 Framework, que deu origem ao UI5 Framework. E essa é a história deles, assim, resumindo, né, em português. Agora eu vou fazer a próxima pergunta para eles, é o tema da nossa palestra, né? Quais são as tendências atuais e futuras do desenvolvimento SAPUI5? Okay, let's speak in English. I will ask the next question for you. What are the current and future trends of SAP UI5 development?
Yeah, basically, in the SAP UI5 development, we are working hard on the evolution of the framework. This means we want to make the UI5 future-proof in several areas, modernize it from a programming model perspective. There are things like, on the one hand side, TypeScript as a topic, which you may have seen already in one or the other UI5ers Live or UI5 concessions, which is evolving the programming model. There's, on the other hand side, things like the UI5 tooling, where we are working on the innovation of everything which is related to improve your development experience on a local machine when working UI5 development, to make this as good and as fast as possible and as seamless as possible. And there's a third dimension in the rendering of the UI5, the rendering framework, which is the UI5 web components, to move the control development of UI5 to web standards and make it then later on consumable easily in the SAP UI5 programming model in XML views and stuff like that, it comes at the end for you as the best development experience.
Okay. Bom, pessoal, do you want to say?
I just want to leave you some time to translate, and maybe then we can go ahead with a few other topics.
Ok. Então, pessoal, vocês ouviram eles falando que eles querem deixar o framework a prova de futuro. O que é isso? É para, em que caso de atualizações futuras, as novas versões do framework continuem compatíveis com as versões antigas, né? Para que, no caso de uma atualização, você não perca as soluções antigas, né? Por causa de problemas de versão. E também querem deixar o SAP UI5 cada vez mais padronizado com as linguagens web que já existem, cada vez mais integrado. Ele falou do Web Components, e também melhorar a experiência de desenvolvimento, né? Porque as pessoas que, eu entendo isso, muitas pessoas que desenvolvem outros frameworks acham o SAP UI5 difícil, eles querem melhorar a experiência do desenvolvedor que utiliza o framework SAP UI5. E ele falou até a questão do TypeScript. Do you want to add some more information?
Yeah. So for sure, one thing which is maybe also important for you as the ABAP, from an ABAP perspective, is from a development experience side, we are building the foundation for Fiori elements. So the Fiori elements are not part of, let's say, my unit, where we define the UI framework. But what we are doing is developing the smart controls, which is the base layer for the Fiori elements, or the OData protocols and the models and all these connectivity parts. And for that, we are also having a lot of work on our side to make the overall programming experience to the best possible, and also to the best performance possible. So this is also one thing which is, let's say, one of our key parts, that it's also always looking how to improve the performance of what we are doing. And on the Fiori element side, you have maybe also seen that there are also a lot of things going on, like Fiori tools development. So they are also developing tools. And these tools on top, they take care with guided development that you can also scaffold or create your projects quickly and get a lot of support during the project creations.
Okay.
And we must not forget UI5 flexibility. This is also a very important topic to us, that where we put quite a lot of effort to help the people to easily extend in a modification for very standard applications, but also gives you the opportunity to use your own app in several scenarios, as you can then also extend that one. I think that's very important, that this becomes also very easy for developers to do this. And with UI flexibility, as most of you might know, we support different, let's say, personas, so that developers can do their job, but also like business teams, if they need like smaller changes, can do this on their own. And even you can do some personalization on your applications. And so still we are not at that point where we want to be. So there's still a lot to do, and also to support all the platforms. So this is also an area we are looking into, and have still lots of idea what to come.
Oh, okay. I like very much the Wi-Fi flexibility.
That's good to know. I will our developers, they will be very happy.
One of the most expensive topics from maintainability to get this.
Yeah. And still today we have a lot of people here who, even in S4HANA, are using the old method of enhancements. And so a lot of people are very surprised with the Wi-Fi flexibility, even in S4HANA implementation projects.
Yeah, the old extensibility, just to talk a bit from history, this has been created very quickly. This was, I think, a project we had for, let's say, 2 weeks of development, and this has been dropped out. It stayed there for a long time, but I think now with the UI5 flexibility, we are really going to the next level and make it even a step forward. So we are really also make an evolution on the flexibility side of UI5.
Very good. Ok, vou falar em português aqui. Pessoal, então vocês viram, né, outras melhorias que eles querem fazer aí no SAPUI5 Framework, é criar essa base para o Fiori Elements, né, criando cada vez componentes mais inteligentes para poder facilitar o desenvolvimento do Fiori Elements, né, porque o Fiori Elements, a base do Fiori Elements é o SAPUI5, então eles vão melhorando os componentes, deixando eles mais inteligentes para poder criar essa base para o desenvolvimento de Fiori Elements, inclusive essa questão da extensibilidade. Quem já usou, diz aí, né, a extensibilidade utilizando o Fiori Elements é muito mais fácil, né, e a questão de melhorar a experiência do desenvolvedor, mas também até do usuário para criar novas formas, né, criar novas regras de negócios. Quem conhece aí a ferramenta de flexibility sabe que até o QUuser pode criar cenários, pode criar campos em tabelas. Então, realmente, a proposta do SAPUI5 é facilitar o desenvolvimento de cenários de negócios, não só para o desenvolvedor, mas até para o próprio usuário das empresas, né? Depois eu vou ler as perguntas que estão fazendo aí, mas vamos batendo papo aí que eu não estou nem conseguindo ler aqui tudo, porque minha cabeça está a mil aqui. Vamos passar para a nossa próxima pergunta. Vou perguntar sobre o TypeScript, né? A gente ouviu ele falando sobre TypeScript, eu vi uma galera aí, o Rodrigo falando sobre TypeScript. Vamos perguntar para ele um pouquinho sobre essa história de TypeScript. Let's speak in English. Peter, you said about TypeScript, and here we have this barrier, this difficulty here, because a lot of ABAP developers are learning JavaScript. People think JavaScript is difficult, and you said one more thing, TypeScript. So for us, we are learning JavaScript, and why use TypeScript in SAPUI5 developments? What are the advantages over the JavaScript?
So basically, this TypeScript topic was something we looked at quite a long time. We were a bit decided in the beginning whether we really want to support TypeScript or not, but as it emerged and became something standard, there was no question anymore. We need to support TypeScript, but for a framework which has been developed in JavaScript, it's quite.
I just wanted to say it's not only like because we decided it, but if you also follow us on GitHub and so, there were constant discussion and like also the request from the community, please support TypeScript. We really want to write our applications in TypeScript, and this was also then a motivation to to hear this feedback and come up with an approach.
And definitely TypeScript has advantages for UI5 development. It comes with code completion out of the box. So you get most IDEs, modern IDEs, are supporting code completion for TypeScript. And this is something what we benefit of. Business Application Studio or Visual Studio Code and other standard web IDEs and standard JavaScript IDEs support code completion for TypeScript. You have a big tooling support, which does checks, syntactical checks of your code. And it also ensures that the types are properly there. And overall, I would say it also improves the code quality, especially for people who starting fresh in development, in UI development. I would say TypeScript is really a nice way of kickstarting and getting a better experience to UI development.
Maybe from me, like also, like as you might know, TypeScript is an extension to JavaScript. So it's a different way to write JavaScript. And as you might experience also, I know from lots of people who are coming from object-oriented languages that they have really difficulties with JavaScript because it's so unstructured. You do not have any types. I think classes only were invented like 3 years ago. And so it's so completely different what you learned with traditional languages, no? And with TypeScript, you get a bit back of the structure that you are used from other languages. So it's also oriented a bit on as what I heard on Java, like how Java is developed and so. And so I think if you come from ABAP, for example, or any other object-oriented language, you might have, it might be easier even for you because you get some structure again for your development and so on. And this is also maybe then a better kickstart for a developer to the JavaScript world. So,
okay.
With all the benefits, what Peter just said, like if you use then types again, most of the IDEs that you are using, they understand this and then can help you with also with references to API documentations and things like that. But it helps also you then like that your code is cleaner and that you follow always the same structure as you are used with other languages.
Okay, I understand. So TypeScript is easier than JavaScript.
It depends from which area you are coming. You can't say it. It depends really of your history also. But I could imagine that someone who is really used to object-oriented languages might have an easier entry there.
Okay.
But what you can also understand is even if you make use of the benefits of TypeScript, it does not mean that you have to write TypeScript. You can also like just make like the type definitions and then benefit from code completion and stay with JavaScript. So it's very flexible how you can use it. And this is, I think, also an advantage of this language.
I want to say that as well. So it doesn't necessarily mean that you need to take the full TypeScript part. You can also use the type definitions we produce for UI5 for JavaScript development, and you get code completion also for the JavaScript parts. For us, it also has another quality because it's also the evolution of the programming model. You know that UI5 is a bit stick to ES5 or was sticked, and with the UI5 tooling, we want to unchain that. It's possible also to use modern JavaScript to develop your apps. But we have some limitations with proprietary module loader syntax, this SAP UI5, if I go a bit more technical. But nowadays, if you write new code, you have these ES6 modules. And you would use ES classes versus our UI5 classes then. And what we are doing with the TypeScript, it's also a joint thing which happened together with the community, and there have been several things already happening up front before we invested fully in the TypeScript part, is that already the community showed us a way how you could write your JavaScript code in modern JavaScript with imports, with classes, all these modern JavaScript features. And as you are now using a tooling underneath to transpile code, you can also benefit from that. And this was one missing piece we didn't have before in the old days. And with TypeScript and this tooling and this modern environment, we now can really go ahead and lift UI5 in a complete new modern development experience.
But this is, again, also something what you need to understand. The browser does not understand TypeScript. This means if you're writing TypeScript, you need to transpile at the end. So that you need to transfer your application in a language again that the browser understands, which is JavaScript. So for a beginner, this might be the step that makes it a bit more difficult, because you need to understand that at the end of your development, you need this transpilation and need to know which tools to use and how to connect this, that this works.
Okay. So TypeScript, the transpiling is always obligatory for TypeScript.
Yeah. And we even go a step further, because we don't transpile TypeScript to ES6 code or to modern JavaScript code. There is a plugin what we are using, this Babel transpile for the translator, this Babel compiler for the UI5 modules, that we even go a bit further, that we convert these ES modules in UI5 modules. So instead of imports, the translated or transpile code is a SAP UI define module, and the classes defined in ES classes, they are translated into UI5 classes. So from a runtime later on, what you see is that this is really, it looks like UI5 runtime code, classic UI5 runtime code. And this is even beneficial, because this could potentially even work with older releases. But we have to say there is one remark. We enabled the TypeScript definition support for UI5 only on 187 onwards. So this UI5 release is the basic release where you get the full type support also for the SAP UI5 distribution content.
Ok, wow, very good. Well, pessoal, vocês viram que foi um assunto que foi longo essa resposta, né? TypeScript é um assunto aí novo para nós, né? Então, resumidamente aí, quem quiser completar no chat o que eu entendi, TypeScript seria uma evolução do JavaScript, uma forma mais moderna de fazer o desenvolvimento de JavaScript. Para quem vem do ABAP, a Margot falou que pode ser até mais fácil aprender primeiro o TypeScript do que o JavaScript, né? Porque é uma linguagem tipada, o TypeScript. Então, ela também falou que tem muitas IDEs e muitas ferramentas que estão suportando já o TypeScript, uma linguagem forte aí da web, e que, então, é importante para o SAPUI5 suportar o TypeScript para que o SAPUI5 fique cada vez mais moderno, né? Cada vez mais equivalente às grandes linguagens de programação web. Essa é uma forma bem resumida, né? Mas ele falou uma questão do transpile aí também, uma questão já mais avançada, que é de converter o código. Eu não vou nem gastar meu tempo agora falando sobre a questão do transpile aqui. A gente vai acabar um dia fazendo uma outra conversa só para falar do transpile aqui. Ok, próxima pergunta aqui. Vamos perguntar para ele sobre o UI5 Tooling, porque quem já viu aí as minhas lives, quem participa das comunidades, sabe que eu ensino lá que tem o UI5 Tooling, que é uma ferramenta para você fazer um setup local de desenvolvimento. Só que aí também para o Visual Studio Code tem o Fiori Tools. Então temos duas ferramentas, né, para poder fazer um setup no desenvolvimento local, Fiori Tools e o UI5 Tooling. Eu quero perguntar para eles qual que é a vantagem do UI5 Tooling sobre o Fiori Tools, ok? Ok, next question about the UI5 Tooling. Here, people are used to use Visual Studio Code with Fiori Tools, or people use the Business Application Studio in BTP, but we also have the environment setup using UI5 tooling with npm package and etc. And I would like to ask, why use UI5 tooling instead of Fiori tools? What are the advantages of UI5 tooling?
It's not about instead of. I mean, it's UI5 tooling is really like, you could say, like the base layer for lots of tools, and it's always a combination. And actually UI5 tooling, Fiori tooling is actually using UI5 tooling. So because like the UI5 tooling itself is rather like for setting up your project and also to build your project, and also the possibility that you can like have a preview of your application because it has a web server in it. So this is what the UI5 tooling brings. And this is also something what Fiori Tools needs. And they did not invent everything themselves, but they're using UI5 tooling to do those things. And but the general benefit of our UI5 toolings is that it is a command line interface tool. This means you do not need an additional software, but you only need like a command shell, and then you can work with it. You need to install Node.js, but that's all. But then you can use I don't know even if Eclipse works, but definitely Visual Studio Code, Sublime, business applications. All of this works more or less with. You can use like to develop your UI5 application. But what is not part of UI5 tooling is any visual UI, like with the Fiori tools. No, with the Fiori tools, you have really graphic UI where you can do UI5 application development. They really help you with not with structuring, but with building your application. There you have like guided development where you can get like hints what's the next step, or you have the annotation or application modeler where you can like add additional views and things like this, or the templates where you can kickstart your application. This is what comes with the Fiori tools, and that really helps you like to be fast with your actual development of the UI5 application. But it also restricts you to a specific development environment. No, I mean the Fiori tools, they are Visual Studio Code extensions. So you need Visual Studio Code, or you need Business Application Studio. In both areas, you can use them. But if you are used to any other kind of tools, you cannot do it. And I think the other good thing with the UI5 tooling is, as it is the command line, it's also very, and also because we thought of this in the architecture, it is quite easy to extend. So everything what we cannot or for everything where we do not have a use case for, or we cannot provide, the community can provide additional tasks that can help with any setups and so on. And there are already quite a lot of, I think, 20 or 30 projects like related to the UI5 tooling that you can use to extend like the features of the UI5 tooling and so on. And there, for example, there are also scaffolding tools that you can use then with the UI5 tooling to kickstart your application and things like that. But I believe Peter can explain it much better.
The scaffolding we keep separated because there is this easy UI5 generator on a low level, which we have also with the easy UI5 3.0 opened in a way that we can now develop together as a community templates for this generator.
But also they expect now that you start with the UI5 tooling and then go with the easy UI5.
No, that's not the case. So the easy UI5 generator is
I read in the setup that you first have to install the UI5 tooling. Then I'm wrong. I thought really that is also kind of like
it needs to be. You are right. It needs to be globally installed. So or it's coming as a dependency from the project. That is also the case. But basically, the easy UI5 generator is the tool which is used for scaffolding. It can consume community templates. So this project templates are developed in a GitHub organization called UI5 community and consumed from the easy UI5 generator. This is how scaffolding works, and this is completely separated from the UI5 tooling. But because on the UI5 tooling side, we focused on two things: resolving dependencies. So this is how our libraries are being consumed from NPM packages, because this is a bit special. They are front-end packages and not typically backend packages, and there needs to be some kind of negotiation about versioning. Otherwise, you run into trouble when there are heterogeneous versions inside. And on the other hand side, the UI5 tooling acts also as a kind of a platform to build and to run tasks and middlewares, depending on what kind of environment you are. So for an application project, you have this dev server, which has middlewares, and these middlewares can be extended with own middlewares. This means it's the web server, and you can plug in something like live reload. Or if you build a project, you can have custom tasks integrated, like a transpile task for ES6 to ES5 or stuff like that. And this was the intention of the UI5 tooling, to exactly be the best possible tool to build UI5 applications and library projects And in future, it will also be something for web components and stuff like that. That's what we are working on, to make it one kind of ecosystem, one tooling as a foundation to provide an environment for UI5 development.
Okay. And one more question. So UI5 tooling is included in Fiori tools, right?
They are using the UI5 tooling, yeah.
So everything I can do in UI5 tooling, I can do in Fiori tools command line.
They are wrapping the UI5 tooling. So basically they have the build task, and this runs also the build task of the UI5 tooling plus additional tasks. They are using this task extensibility. And for the dev server, it's the same thing. They run the UI5 serve command, but they extend it with custom middlewares to have, let's say, the proxy for the ABAP system or whatever.
Okay. Okay.
This is not what we provide on an open source low level.
Ok. Ok. Ó, pessoal, vocês viram aí, né? Mais uma resposta bem comprida, né? Então, o UI5 Tooling, ele está na base do Fiori Tools, né? Então, essa questão do UI5 Tooling é para você ampliar suas possibilidades de desenvolvimento, né? Veja que nós estamos ainda engateando no desenvolvimento web, mas para quem já é mais avançado aí, tiver alguém no chat que já está mais acostumado com desenvolvimento web, com essas linhas de comando, com esses pacotes NPM, então algumas funcionalidades que o framework não vai ter, que o SAP não vai ter, você pode ampliar funcionalidades, ampliar as possibilidades que você tem quando você utiliza uma ferramenta como o UI5 Tooling. Então, mas como eles complementaram, o UI5 Tooling está na base, né? O Fiori Tools utiliza o UI5 Tooling. Bacana, né? Então a gente pode juntar aí as duas coisas. Eu vejo como a gente tem bastante coisa para aprender nesse mundão de desenvolvimento front-end. E falando mais sobre desenvolvimento front-end, vamos falar sobre uma ferramenta que chama UI5 Inspector. O UI5 Inspector é uma extensão para o browser que a gente utiliza. Uma das principais vantagens do UI5 Inspector é a gente saber qual que é o campo qual que é a variável que preenche um campo na tela, né? Veja lá no meu canal no YouTube lá, que tem um videozinho que chama Como descobrir o campo que alimenta, como descobrir a variável que alimenta um campo na tela. Então, isso é uma das coisas que o UI5 Tooling te ajuda. O UI5 Inspector. Uma das coisas que o UI5 Inspector ajuda é te ajudar a descobrir qual que é a variável que preenche um campo da tela. Só que ela tem várias opções e eu quero saber mais deles, quais que são as outras vantagens do UI5 Inspector. Okay, let's speak in English. I would like to ask about the UI5 Inspector extension for Google Chrome browser. I use it to use the UI5 Inspector to discover the data binding, the variable name for a Y element in the screen. But we see a lot of options in UI5 Inspector, so I would like to know which are the other benefits of UI5 Inspector beyond the control tree.
So basically from the UI5 Inspector, the idea was to bring the functionality what we have in the support tools. You may know that, Control-Shift-Alt-S. You can open the support tools in any browser and open a new window for UI5 to a Chrome plugin. That was a project which has been started more as an idea, and we wanted to learn what we have and additional opportunities here. And basically the first thing was the control tree. That's right. That was the thing, to visualize that, to inspect then the properties, to modify the properties, or to see also from a data binding perspective what kind of models are related, and is it one way, two way. So you get a bit more detail on that. But I think the idea is always to go a bit ahead of that, what's by default possible already with the support tools, and to leverage the browser capabilities. And this is if you can break out and also look into, for example, what's happening on network and maybe analyze things like requests. So I think, I hope in the new version of the OData, of the UI5 Inspector, this OData extension is already in, where you can also inspect a little bit more this $batch request, and so it provides you a much better visualization of this batch, because otherwise you need to understand these parts, and then you need to read in these parts, and with that you can click on that and you get more details a bit more in a human readable form. And so this is the idea, that we are able to add more and more of this functionality in the UI5 Inspector, which cannot be realized with just the native browser functionality. And therefore, this tool has been developed.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But
It's definitely, yeah, sorry, go ahead first.
that's because you say the UI5 Inspector, it's part for supporting tools, right?
Correct.
So let's back the question. Could you tell a little bit more about this supporting tool?
So the supporting tools, they started also quite early, also with the intention
Peter, maybe only to interrupt, because supporting tool, it's always, I think, some mixing up. I think what you meant with supporting tool is this diagnostic window, no? So if people are looking in our documentation, they know which supporting tool you mean.
Yeah, it's this Control Shift Alt S. It's I think it has several renames in the past, and maybe that's why I'm not at a latest name. It's called a diagnostic tool, and a diagnostic tool is just the control tree. It has the version information of the UI5 version. It has also we tried it in the past around having debug capabilities, that you can easily add breakpoints to, let's say, setters and getters of controls and stuff like that. There was also visualization of flexibility in that, where you can see what happened there, to make it easier from our perspective as UI5 development team to inspect what's going wrong. And it's also nice at the end for every one of us developing SAP UI5 application, that this tool can also be used to already pre-analyze issues before sending them over to the development support, and that we can help our own a bit. For sure, development tools can always be improved, and there are a lot of ideas in that. But the main problem is from the support tool, there had been a lot of investment in the past. As we said, this is the way forward. We want to have an agnostic tool from a browser. But we also noticed with the UI5 Inspector that if you have the capabilities of the browser and you can access native stuff of the browser, you can even get a much deeper analysis of what's going on, what's happening there. So the UI5 Inspector has also a lot of potential still. It's not at the end, but you see that with, for example, the analysis of the OData requests and the batches, for example, people are looking forward to evolve that. And this is step by step that we want to make this from an overall experience much better.
Ok, now I understand. Oh, bom, pessoal, vejam aí. Então, ele falou que o UI5 Inspector, que é uma extensão do browser, ela é parte de uma ferramenta que é esse do UI5 Diagnostics, que é uma ferramenta de suporte que tem como objetivo facilitar a análise dos aplicativos, fazer debug, analisar erros, uma melhoria das ferramentas de debugger do browser, né? Quem já está fazendo aí os seus aplicativos SAPUI5 está mexendo aí com as ferramentas de debug lá, as ferramentas de desenvolvedor do browser, só que essa ferramenta de diagnóstico, ela quer ir além, quer ser melhor, né? A ferramenta de diagnóstico, ela quer prover mais possibilidades e ferramentas para a gente fazer análise de erros, né? Graças a Deus, a gente poder uma forma bacana aí de analisar os erros no front-end, fazer debug e outras coisas. Eu vou perguntar agora para eles, já que a gente está falando sobre análise, sobre testes, quem já estudou para certificação aí? Quem aí tem certificação do SAPUI5, diz aí. Já deve ter ouvido falar em umas ferramentas de teste que chama OPA5 e QUnit, OPA5. Então eu quero perguntar para eles mais sobre isso, né? OPA5, sobre QUnit, o que é isso, ok? Let's speak in English. I would ask to you about some tools. It's very kind of new for us, people who are studying for the certification, for example. Some topics about the certification are about testing, and we have some words, some tools named OPA5 and QUnit. What is exactly the OPA5 and QUnit, and what are the benefits of these tools?
Yeah, the QUnit itself, this is the way of how functional tests are being written for UI5. It's a very simple way of writing tests, and it comes with the advantage that you don't require any tooling to run it. It can be just run in the browser. And this was also from our beginning the decision why we went towards QUnit. We had also jQuery, or we have still jQuery under the hood, and the testing framework of jQuery is QUnit. So this was also a logical consequence that we then used QUnit as a testing framework, but it also had the benefit really of running in the browser. You didn't need any tooling, just run it really, develop it and press F5 and run it in the browser. And, you know, in the past and also from where we were coming, the UI5 didn't assume any server runtime. So this was more or less also the reason why this was a good choice at that point of time. The differentiation to QUnit is then with OPA5 that you write integration tests there. The integration tests, they are more scenario tests where you test then the complete flow, like I open an application, I click this button, then it shows this list. And this OPA5 has developed with the idea of using this, I think it's called this Gherkin syntax, that you have these different ways of how to write things. Like given is I can open the app. When the table becomes visible, then I press the button and then I can react on things and do some checks. And there, the OPA5 framework helps a lot to structure your tests a bit more. In the first, I have to admit, it was also for me a bit strange to apply to this Gherkin syntax, but if you are used to that, it's a great help because you know that given is something where you check that what you want to open. When is that the place where you check what conditions need to somehow be happening, and then in the assertions you check then more or less that everything happened properly, and this is the way how it goes. And the cool thing about the OPA5 is that we build it on top of QUnit. So it means technically what's running there, it's QUnit. And the reporting what we are having for the framework, for the test running, this is then also based on this QUnit results, the QUnit reporting. So we can have then, let's say, a harmonized testing environment that if the tests are running, it can be QUnit and OPA5 tests can run in one chain. And at the end, they report back the same results.
Okay. Okay. It's a very this testing subject. It's in ABAP development. It's not automated tests is not common in ABAP development.
But this will also change. I read a lot of blog posts also where people are discussing this, especially now with ABAP Cloud and so. In a cloud scenario, you need tests and you need automated tests. Otherwise, it does not work.
Yeah. Okay. On our side in the development, we have also different teams. So one of the teams do really test-driven development. So they really start writing the QUnit tests for controls. So for control development, for example, we mainly use QUnit tests. And then then someone else afterwards starts to develop the control. So someone decides with a QUnit test how the control should behave, and the other one has to implement it finally. But there are also other teams who do it vice versa. First, they build the control, and afterwards they write the tests. So I'm also personally, I'm unbiased here. I don't know what is the better approach. I see benefits in both approach, but I was also usually the guy who started hacking and later on, okay, I need to write a test. Okay, give it to me.
Ok. Uau, pessoal, vocês viram aí, né, a resposta, né, ferramentas, essa ferramenta QUnit, OPA-teste. Então, QUnit é uma ferramenta de testes, para a gente fazer teste de componente, um teste besta, né, tipo, eu tenho que clicar no botão e vai abrir um pop-up, né, então você automatiza um teste que vai automaticamente executar esse teste de clicar no botão e ver se abriu o pop-up que você queria, né, esse tipo de coisa. E já o OPA5 é uma ferramenta construída em cima do QUnit, que automatiza os testes de um cenário mais completo. Você pode programar ali, então, especificar, né? Desenhar um cenário de teste mais completo. Por exemplo, vou criar um material. Então, vou clicar no botão, aí tem que preencher todos os dados, aí vai salvar, tem que salvar no banco de dados, aí tem o status, o cadastro está aprovado, está recusado, né? Um fluxo completo aí de criação de pedido de material, de entrada de mercadoria, e é uma coisa que realmente é comum no desenvolvimento web, só que a gente não tem esse costume de fazer isso no ABAP, né? Não faz parte da nossa história, no nosso mercado, fazer esse tipo de teste automatizado, mas isso está mudando com a história do ABAP Cloud, né? Que no ABAP Cloud também, para poder funcionar as paradas, vai ter que todo mundo aprender a fazer aí esses testes lá no ABAP Cloud. Então, comecem a se envolver com essa história de testes automatizados, é uma coisa que vai pegar bastante no futuro aí, de acordo com a informação que eles estão passando, que é uma coisa que já é normal no desenvolvimento web, né, e que nós vamos ter que abraçar também, essa funcionalidade aí. Legal. Vamos perguntar agora sobre desenvolvimento híbrido. Muitas pessoas aí, eu vi no chat alguém perguntando sobre desenvolvimento híbrido para desenvolvimento de aplicativos nativos para dispositivos móveis. Então, vou perguntar para ele sobre qual que é o método atual de fazer desenvolvimento híbrido. Okay, I would like to ask about the hybrid development, about the native apps, SAPUI5 native apps based in Wi-Fi development. Since the beginning, we heard about the HAT, Cordova, mobile development kit, a lot of tools. So, which is the actual method to build hybrid SAPUI5 apps?
If you would have not said SAPUI5 apps, then I would have said the right way forward at the moment is the mobile development kit. So I think so. The trend at what I can see, and I'm not 100% deep in that, what the strategy overall is now, is that it looks like that mobile native applications are mainly developed using the mobile development kit. And so if you run apps then really on mobile devices to get the best experience, they are native. From our past perspective, UI5 has been built as a responsive application, means that we can run on mobiles, tablets, and desktop devices. It's also our slogan, build once, run everywhere. And I think it's still the case. And I personally also had several research projects with students already going on PWAs, progressive web apps. This looked really promising. But I think one downside of progressive web apps these days is really that the Safari or iOS devices are not really following that, unfortunately. I don't know why. Maybe it has to do with the App Store or so, and they want to get some money, get more money from people buying native apps. Yeah, but having these progressive web apps would be really a nice way of making SAPUI5 apps offline available, especially from, let's say, the pure client-side logic. We have nothing with respect to making, let's say, an OData, some kind of offline capable that you can, let's say, develop and not develop, work with the UI5 app, and things are somehow stored in a persistency while you are offline and then sync back when you connect. So these are the things what we are not of. So, but this progressive web apps, I would say, has a lot of potential, but it's also related to the evolution of iOS and what happens there.
I just also wanted to mention, first of all, with the native, I think at SAP it's really like that they distinguish, is it a pure mobile scenario, then they say go for native because they do get like the best support for everything. But for sure there are hybrid scenarios where people once want to work on desktop and specific stuff also done on mobile, and there I still believe that UI5 is a good solution for it, and we have also lots of customers who really believe in web application that can be also used on mobile. And there I wouldn't say there is a special method that you need to do with UI5, but you just need to consider when you are developing, checking like, can I still read it on the mobile, and is it behaving good, and so on. That's rather like a mindset that you need to have, that if you're thinking of this should be also working for people when working on mobile, you also have make the concept for your application like this, and especially maybe also thinking of like caching mechanism, like going like in PVA and so on, like is it good to have like some caching mechanism that if there's a low latency with the network and so on, that it still works and so on. And these are things that you have to think of, and in some parts we can support, but it's at the end also a bit with the developer how he's doing. And for mobile, as Peter said, there is the mobile development kit, but this is not a UI5 application. That is then really native.
Ok. Ok. Bom, pessoal, então vocês viram que eles me deram aí uns esclarecimentos, né, até em relação ao meu entendimento, que o desenvolvimento híbrido, né, meu entendimento já era o desenvolvimento dispositivo móvel, né, mas desenvolvimento híbrido, ele funcionaria em dispositivos móveis, mas também funcionaria em browsers, em desktop. Então, o correto aí seria o desenvolvimento de aplicativos nativos, se você quiser ter as funcionalidades dos nativas do celular, né? GPS, giroscópio, câmera, essas coisas aradas tudo aí. Então tem o Mobile Development Kit, mas não é necessariamente um aplicativo SAPUI5. Então o Mobile Development Kit é da SAP, mas ele vai gerar, no final das contas, um aplicativo nativo, não necessariamente um aplicativo SAPUI5. E é bom, né? Tem muitos requisitos aí de clientes pedindo que o aplicativo funcione offline, né? Eu já recebi esse requisito. Tem cliente que eu já vi pedir GPS também, né? Então, dependendo aí do requisito, dependendo do projeto, pode ser que você seja solicitado a fazer um aplicativo com esses requisitos e ele vai ser um aplicativo nativo e não necessariamente aplicativo híbrido, né? Porque o híbrido vai rodar também nos browsers depois. Ok, a próxima pergunta, então, agora já chegando mais para o final, eu quero perguntar para ele, além de tudo isso que a gente já falou, quais outros assuntos a gente deve estar de olho agora e no futuro, né? Além de tudo isso que a gente falou. And you ask, né? You ask, we already talk a lot about subject, but what other front-end development subjects we should be looking at now and in the near future?
Yeah, front-end development is evolving. We try to catch up, and we had already a few topics where we are investing. The TypeScript part, for sure, this is something we want to make more prominent. It shows also that people very well accept TypeScript development. The move to web components is also something we are working heavily on and integrated then more native into SAP UI5. For sure, the UI5 tooling or the CLI tooling to leverage that this becomes also a part of standard development in the future, because it opens up also for a lot of capabilities like transpiling or leveraging open source tools more easy in your daily development experience. This is something which is also on our agenda, and for sure, when it comes to, when you remember this topic about the hybrid apps, there are also things which support hybrid apps, service workers. This is a topic what is now also more interesting than ever, because with the sunset of the IE11 for the UI5 browser PAM for the later versions now, we can also leverage modern JavaScript features, and service workers is really also a great opportunity to think about how to make your application offline capable. Another thing what I see maybe as a last shot, which was also one thing from my heart a bit to continue to evolve, is on theming perspective to move towards CSS variables. because one thing which was always a bit painful is if you develop custom controls or custom components in UI5, you had no chance to connect them to theming. So if you developed a custom theme in your company, and then you have developed your own control, it always looked one way, the way you defined that. But now with having CSS variables there, you can refer to UI5's CSS variables, say, I want to take the background color of let's say the button, the text field, and use that for my UI control. And I see a lot of things in that direction that we leverage now. All this functionality, which was some kind of limited with having the IE11 always back, that we can open up now in that way and unchain also the power of modern JavaScript a bit more.
Ok. Ó, então, pessoal, vocês viram, então, o que a gente tem que estar de olho no futuro aí, né? É sobre a evolução do framework para ele ficar cada vez mais robusto, mais equivalente a outras linguagens do mercado. Então, aí, o que a gente pode estar de olho aí nessa questão do TypeScript, que ele falou, questão de Web Components, que é a próxima pergunta, UI5 Tooling, e essa questão do CSS Variáveis CSS, porque no SAPUI5 a gente pode desenvolver controles próprios, só que eles ficam amarrados ao tema que a gente definiu no código, né? Mas o cliente pode criar novos temas, pode mudar as cores, então você pode associar, né, fundir o seu controle customizado com os temas personalizados da empresa. Então, eu vou perguntar a minha última pergunta da minha parte, depois a gente vai partir para as perguntas suas aqui. E da minha pergunta, ele falou ali do Web Components, muitas pessoas já perguntaram sobre Angular, React, e eu vou perguntar para ele se faz sentido para nós, desenvolvedores ABAP, que estamos aprendendo SAPUI5, se faz sentido para nós aprender Angular, React e Web Components. And the last question of my part is, we are ABAP developers that are learning SAPUI5. But you said about the Web Components, and we know that exists Angular, React, Fiori fundamentals. So it makes sense for us to learn, in addition to SAPUI5, this Angular, React, and the Web Components.
Maybe I can start and then Peter, you can follow up. I mean, in general, it's always good to know additional languages and so on, but it really depends a bit. I mean, if you're really a consultant, mainly in the S4 area, I think there's no need yet to learn web components or fundamentals or Angular or React, as they for sure will stick with SAP UI5, and if you have SAP UI5 knowledge, you will have a lot of work to do the work there. The web components for sure is a topic also for UI5, as we want to transition them again in UI5. But also there it is like, if you do not plan to create controls, you do not need to care, but it's good that you know it and you know the concepts and so on, and you understand how they work and so on. But you do not need to learn web components because of this, because the framework is doing this for you. Except you want to do your own controls, then it makes sense maybe to adapt the concepts how we work then with or how we build our controls, and then you can go on. With other controls or with Angular and React, my personal advice would be it's similar with languages. No, I mean, if you start to learn a new language, you should stick first to one and be proper in that one, and then maybe go to the next one. Then so you should decide on which one you want to go. And as they are all JavaScript languages, if you do too much in parallel, you get confused. No, then you think, oh, okay, in Angular it's there, and in React I have to do it this, and in UI5 I had to do it that, and that does not make sense. Then you really have to think about which path you want to go. And what I hear also from my colleagues and also friends working with other frameworks is that if you like Angular, people normally hate React and the other way around, because the
it's a very
concepts are quite
opinionated thing.
It's really like, because Angular, for example, you have to know TypeScript, because Angular is working with TypeScript. So you need to do TypeScript. And there are people, they don't like TypeScript. They come from a different area and so on. And what I heard now, I think React is more related to PHP and so on. So people more familiar with this maybe like React more than Angular and so on. And so it really depends. For sure, it's always good to know additional things, because with this you can learn. But now in the SAP ecosystem, as I said, like with S4, I think you are very well prepared if you can SAP UI5. If you go, for example, I think in customer experience, there you will find a more mixed up setup. I think that it might be then possible that it's a good idea also to look into React, for example, and so on. But
I think that hits it very well, Margot, what you said. So S4 development is driven by SAP UI5, and it stays and is the main programming model what we have there. It's also the programming model if it comes to this RUB or CUP stuff, because we have these connectivity parts and Fiori elements and all the things which can be easily put on top. And I think there is nothing at the moment available which can compare with that on that level. Because when you look at React, Angular, and Vue, they are really low-level frameworks, first of all. And what you get with the SAP UI5, it's really an enchilada. It's an application programming model having a lot of things inside. And for sure, the hurdle is big to understand all the parts. But once you get it, I think you can be very effective in development. But this is also the case for other languages. But there you have to learn how to combine the things. For React, you cannot just use React. React itself, it's just mainly a templating thingy. And that you need to have the React router, then which one you use. Then you need to have the next thingy from the ecosystem there. And you have a lot of plugins you need to combine to get a whole application environment for yourself. But for us, I would say, or my point of view is always stay curious, look into the things, because if you know how they work, you can compare them and you know what is good on the one hand side and what is good on the other hand side. I personally also look in these frameworks because I want to also look what can we improve also for UI5 in one or the other place in our programming model. What can we evolve? And I would say also one thing people really like is the modern way of developing apps, the TypeScript thingy with imports and ES classes. This is one thing we are also accepted and we are looking to go ahead. But in order to make parts of our UI5 framework available for all the technologies to achieve at least the reuse of foundation parts of our framework is to move the web components in this low-level layer, this UI elements what we have, that they can be used with Angular, React, Vue, or whatever framework will comes. We will make it best of class integrated in the UI5 world again. And in future, there may be also other stuff reusable from the UI5 framework. You may have listened to one or the other keynotes I made when I talk about modular core. I want to make the core parts reusable, that you can use formatting things. So we want to also provide an offering, at least from that what we have in the SAP UI5 framework, as a kind of a toolbox also for the other frameworks, that they can also benefit from our stuff. But overall, I fully agree with Margot's statements. So if you're in the S4 environment, SAP UI5 is the best way to go forward. RUB, CUP, maybe the best suited thing to do SAP UI5, but CX or customer experience in other domains in SAP, they are a bit more liberal also from the frameworks they are using, and there it's maybe not that bad if you know these other frameworks as well.
Oh, ok, muito bom. Take out, very good. Vamos ver o pessoal aí, eles falando então, né? Para quem vai trabalhar com S4HANA, não faz muito sentido se você ficar não, se você vai ficar com S4HANA, não faz muito sentido para você aprender essas novas linguagens. Elas fazem mais sentido se você for desenvolver componentes próprios no SAPUI5 para ser utilizado em outras linguagens. Então, aí é bom você conhecer um pouquinho de cada uma, né? Saber como funciona, o que cada uma permite. E o Angular está mais relacionado à questão do TypeScript, então é bom para pessoas que já vêm do TypeScript, e o React tem mais a ver com PHP, né? Então são duas frentes diferentes. Então eles viram que tem muitas vantagens, é uma discussão longa aí, né? Então depende muito do seu background. Se você é ABAP e vai ficar no S4HANA, não faz muito sentido, mas se você quiser ampliar as suas possibilidades, é interessante sim você aprender um pouquinho de cada uma para ter noções, né? Principalmente se for desenvolver componentes. Da minha parte, pessoal, essas foram todas as minhas perguntas. Eu vou abrir agora para a pergunta de vocês aí. Digitem aí suas perguntinhas, porque aqui o chat rolou para cima aqui como um louco, né? Então, as primeiras perguntas eu vou. Pode ser que eu não consiga ver. Se você tem alguma dúvida, mande no chat agora, que eu vou pedir para eles aqui mais 10 minutinhos do tempo deles, antes da gente encerrar, para responder dúvidas que vocês enviarem no chat. Então, manda aí as suas dúvidas, né? Porque aí mais 10 minutinhos aqui. Do you have more 10 minutes to answer the questions from the chat?
Yes.
Peter, I think.
Okay.
Yeah. For me, it's
Okay.
also fine. Yeah.
Ok, people, send your questions here. Eu vou ver o que já tem de perguntas antigas aqui, enquanto o pessoal manda perguntas novas. Pessoal, mandem aí, vamos perguntar aí, aproveita agora o que vocês querem perguntar aqui. Are you search in the old message if there has some question here?
I think the question was if we believe that Business Application Studio will be now kind of stable because there was quite a lot of changes with Web ID and so on. And like from my perspective, you never know what comes in future, but I have a very good feeling with Business Application Studio, as it is really like based on the same concepts than Visual Studio Code and works also with the extensions and so on. I think that has future to me, and I think it's a good way forward.
Okay. Other question I see here about the voice command in Fiori, SAPUI5. Do we have voice command in SAPUI5?
Voice command?
Voice command. Voice commands.
So voice control or voice commands, we only had, I think it was 3 years or 4 years back, there was a student looking into that. Made a research as part of his end of his internship here, and he presented how voice control could potentially be used to control UI5 applications. But there is nothing officially there, and it was very in an early stage, so I don't even remember anymore all the details of that. But we didn't follow up on that topic yet. At the moment, there is nothing.
Yeah, it's nothing we're officially working on it. It's always that we look into the topic, make maybe some POCs and so on. But currently, there's also like from our internal stakeholders, not that requirement to support this.
Okay. Another question here, Paulo asked, what do you think about a lot of low-code tools? For example, AppGyver. Yeah, AppGyver, it's a new topic. I like the build. I'm very sad because build will be shut down. But what do you think about the AppGyver? Can we expect AppGyver to work like build, where, for example, we can prototype a screen and then export the code? So what do you think
I had a chance to talk to one of the guys leading this company, or leading now the team there, and we looked forward for some synergies, and indeed this was one topic we discussed. But at the moment, I think they have a lot of other things to solve, the integration into the into the SAP family, and I think this may come, but I cannot say anything at the moment. The focus is clearly on having this low-code platform integrated in the business application studio that you can easily build apps there and deploy them and running them on the cloud platform or business technology platform. So this is, I think, their main focus. And for the future, it may be really interesting to see whether there might be a possibility on that exactly this will happen.
Okay, so you can
would also say like low code is a very important topic to SAP currently, and there are like lots of projects going into this direction. Also that Fiori Elements becomes more a low code tool than it is already and stuff like that. And so I think there will follow a lot of new stuff in future. And with the AppGyver, just as a comment, like as you know, AppGyver was acquisitioned by SAP and has no UI5 history. So currently it's not working with UI5. There we will see what future comes, but currently you do not build UI5 application with AppGyver, but it's a React application.
Yeah.
Okay. Rodrigo asked, how about Fiori card in development? Rodrigo está falando daqueles cards do Fiori Elements, do Overview Pages. Yes, we have. I think I understand, because we have the Fiori Elements application we have the Overview Pages, but also in the framework we have the cards.
Integration cards.
The integration cards.
It's very different. What's the difference of these cards of Overview Pages and the cards of these integration cards? I am also changing the question.
So maybe to start a bit about the idea of the integration cards, it's the integration cards, they have been meant to declaratively describe the content of, let's say, some start pages, and that you can render then fragments inside the start page, and you describe more or less what kind of data should be displayed there. And there are several card types, and that if you go to the integration card explorer on UI5.com, you see a lot of examples there. And it's more of separating the development of the card, how the card is visually represented from what data should be rendered and displayed there. And this also opens opportunities, because if you have a declarative description of what is the content which should be displayed in the start page, you can exchange the rendering with web components, with UI5 rendering, with a mobile native rendering and stuff like that. And that's the main idea, I would say, behind this integration. That's how I understand it.
Okay.
Yeah, and also like to make difference, like the overview page, the cards, this is connected. No, overview page is a layout in Fiori design and in Fiori Elements, and the cards are really like stick to this layout. You cannot put them away and put this card from the overview page to another page. And the UI integration cards are individual elements that you can put anywhere you want to. So you could, in theory, put it on any page you want to do to represent this card there.
Okay. Thompson is asking, are they planning to create a new design patterns like master detail? Yes, we have the master detail, work list, and there has planned to create a new patterns.
Yeah, this is more a question to our designers, because they normally came up with like customer, how to say, like customer feedback and so on. But as far as I know, the last statement I got from them is that they are currently not working on any additional floor plans or pattern.
Okay. Can we expect some kind of Fiori version 4?
I guess it's with fashion, no, there will be always a new fashion and whatever, and there will be for sure any new flavor of Fiori. And and I think like if you go to Tech, there might be some new information. As you know, we have a new designer, like a Fiori or a chief designer there. And for sure, he has his vision with Fiori.
Okay. One question here from Diogo. It makes sense to create a floor plan to hold workflows.
I think it's less a floor plan, no? At least like for the workflow, we have always like this inbox where you can then enter. But I wouldn't know like what kind of floor plan it could be for a workflow, because each workflow might look a bit different. Or do you mean really like how it's said, like step-by-step workflow thingy like that?
There's this guided procedure thingy. And
there we would have the guided
this,
procedure.
The step.
The wizard.
Yeah, the wizard, yeah. There are this visualization of these steps, what are also used in some places for e.g. shopping cart flows and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But there in the demo kit, there are a few things, a few controls.
Yeah, so there at least there's not a full floor plan, but there are pattern how you can create like a guided process or so, if this is about the floor workflow. But if it's like about the workflows in ERP, for example, where you just have like to accept or deny or something like this, there I would say it's normally more like an inbox.
I even don't know the names out of the box.
That's a question to you, Peter. I just see like somebody is asking if he can contribute to OpenUI5 and if how.
So the contribution to OpenUI5 can be done in several ways. We had even a UI5ers live session about that. Maybe we can send the link to Cristiano where we explain in detail a bit more these opportunities for sure. One thing is on the one hand side, opening tickets to report issues, and someone on our side takes care. If you really want to contribute, you can also open pull requests. These pull requests have a special handling because we need to translate that to internal changes, and then the review will take place from the developers, and they will also provide feedback to the OpenUI5 pull request then. But this is a possibility for sure you can do as well.
But as we are test driven, you need a test then also for your code.
Yeah, that's true.
I have a friend that contributes to OpenUI5. Maybe you know him. His name is Mauricio Laufer.
Yeah, definitely, for sure. He not only contributed to OpenUI5 but also to the ecosystem. No, he built also great tools for UI5, and that's also a way how you cannot. Not necessarily you need to contribute to the framework itself, but there are so many things you can do, like to help others with additional tools or tips and so on. And this
exactly
is
this UI5 tooling extension. There we build up this UI5 ecosystem, which allows you to share your custom tasks and middlewares with others. And this has been initiated at the UI5Con as a nice side effect. So where Volker Bulzek reached out to me and said, well, can we do something to improve this UI5 development experience with a live reload feature? And I said, well, yeah, let's sit together. And out of that, this UI5 ecosystem project started, and we have now, I think, around 30 different tasks and middlewares in there. And even Mauricio has his own tasks published on his own repositories. So it's not necessary that you need to...
Peter, now he's gone.
Hello?
Peter is... Yeah, no, your sound was a bit dodgy. Yeah,
okay.
Now you're back.
But I'm still here.
Okay.
So Raphael, it's great that you want to contribute. Just do it. Like feedback is also a kind of contribution. So just get in contact via GitHub or anyhow.
Or if you have an idea, you can also reach out directly to us.
Exactly.
So we have done that also in the past. There was one guy, Jan Gert, or Gert Jan, he reached out to us with developing a UI5 library template. And I said, yeah, well, this template you have is a bit outdated. We should modernize it. And we sit together to really bring that to the latest state, and shared this now as part of the easy UI5 generator. So it was then also directly impact for everyone. And the final result was also showed at the UI5ers live session.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Very good, very good. Yes, I like to watch the UI5ers live sessions.
Thank you.
I will be there in the next one. Okay, I will finish this transmission now. We are a lot of time here, but I like it too much. I am very happy with this chat today, and I believe people also like it very much also. And thank you very much for your time, for your participation. Thank you for
Thank
your
you for the
information.
invitation, Cristiano.
Yeah.
This was really nice that we had the chance here to talk and
Yeah,
to
I must-
answer the questions.
Yeah, I must say I enjoyed it also a lot. It's also really thanks to everybody who was watching this or also participated in asking questions and so on. It's great. I mean, I will go through the chat and also try to translate those Portuguese comments as I saw my name sometimes in it. So I'm curious what's going on there. And unfortunately, my Portuguese is not that good anymore, but it was really great fun. And I'm really happy we made this. I mean, we planned it quite a while. It's great that it came.
You at least know a little bit
reality.
of Portuguese. My God, I feel lost in translation sometimes. I only identified a few words in between and somehow prepared myself for the next question.
Yeah, very good. And this transmission, this recording will be available in YouTube for the future watching for everybody. If you want to come back, watch again, translate again, everybody can watch this recording again in the future. So one more time, thank you very much. I will close. I will finish the transmission for now. I will just say one more words in Portuguese here, but I would thank you again and see you next time. See you in the next UI5ers live.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you.
bye.
Obrigada.
Obrigada. I know to say, Dankeschön. Dankeschön.
Dankeschön. Exactly.
Okay. So bye. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. It's me. It's my screen that I want to show here. I'm showing you. I want to stop showing you. Ok. Bye. Bye. Ok, pessoal. Uau, que conversação, hein? Que conversação fantástica. Foi muito bom estar com vocês aqui hoje. Para quem ainda não almoçou, tipo eu, agora é a hora de eu vou almoçar. E repassando mais uma vez alguns recados. Quinta-feira que vem, 7 da noite, aqui neste mesmo canal, vai ter aula gratuita de BOPF para CDS Views. Neste canal, 19 horas. E dia 30, sábado, vou estar no SAP Inside Track, presencialmente em Fortaleza, para falar sobre o UX Design. Então, agradeço muito a presença de vocês. Aí, dê o joinha aí nos vídeos, aquela coisa arada tudo, né? Clique, comente, compartilhe, faça todas essas coisas aradas lá. E nos vemos nas próximas transmissões, hein? Anota aí na agenda. Semana que vem, quinta-feira, 19 horas, aqui neste mesmo canal, beleza? Vou desconectar também aqui minha transmissão. Bom almoço para todos os brazucas que participaram, pessoal. Até mais. Tchau.